The Etihad Airways Falmouth Stakes sees the first clash of the generation amongst the Fillies and Mares, and a trainer who has a very strong hand among many generations of both is John Gosden. Let's hear from him about his chances. And maybe start with Joviality, who I think really proved what she could do in the Windsor Forest.
Yes, a miles below her best, but she ran a good race in the Princess Elizabeth at Epsom and not liking the track. And I think Henry's filly came to win it, but probably didn't see the trip out as well as we did. It's a stiff old mile, Ascot. And so to that extent, we were thrilled with her. We'll have a look at the Falmouth. It is a little bit of a ground decision with her. I hadn't planned necessarily to run her there. I've been thinking of the Beverley D for her in Arlington Park. So she'll be left in the race just in case the ground comes very much to her liking. I sort of see her in the stiff mile to mile 1 range, you know. To that extent, I think the race will suit her if it comes up very soft.
Fallen for you. She really seemed to put her head above the parapet for the 3-year-old fillies with that victory in the Coronation Stakes. Was the key how you ride her now?
Yes, the race unfolded well for her. They went a nice pace, not a mad pace, but a nice pace. And then she came and took the race away from them in the last part. But she was fully on top with a furlong to run.
And is that ideally how you would like the race to pan out for her?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have to have a blazing pace. She just wants, you know, she just likes to settle at the back of the field because she's got a phenomenal turn of foot. And I think you want to play to that strength rather than doing it back to front.
Is Elusive Kate possible for the Falmouth?
She has had a frustrating year because she was meant to run in the Fred Darling and she tweaked a muscle, couldn't run, but in the end it didn't matter because the ground was very testing. And then she was meant to run in the Guineas and then the ground was not her ground at all. She's fast, quick action, top of the ground, American bred filly out of a good family, good French family. And she loves good de firm. And so then we were going to run again in the Coronation. Olivier was over to ride her, but it rained heavily and the ground was soft and she doesn't like it. So there was not much point. It's going to get a bit desperate if it goes, all of her races are soft ground. It's a freak year. And I hope that we are able to run her in the Falmouth. I'd be very, very keen to do so.
Is she still showing you that bit of magic on the
Yeah,
darts?
she's worked beautifully the last few days, but it was on good de firm, which is her favourite surface.
Well, it had been hard to sort out how the 3-year-old fillies among the miling division were really going. And then along came Fallen for you, Chris, in the Coronation Stakes.
Yeah, I think on 2 fronts that was very impressive, visually impressive. Probably one of the most visually impressive performances of the year from a 3-year-old filly, taking out Homecoming Queen in the Guineas. But in terms of solidity of form, I think probably the best piece of form that we've seen, given that she had the winners of the English and Irish Guineas in behind her. So she's got a load of ability. I think she can sometimes take a little bit of a while to get organised, but she's got winning form here and she sets the standard amongst the 3-year-old division who have a good record in this race.
I thought they got the tactics dead right at Ascot. They held her up, almost exaggerated weight tactics, really at pains to settle her, and I thought that was a big thing. And I think if they can repeat that, she just might be a filly who's really starting to blossom.
Joviality pushed herself to the fore at Royal Ascot, Steve, with that really good win in the Windsor Forest.
Yeah, I think it shows what she wants. I know she's run a Musadora, I know she's got form at 1.25 miles. I think she wants a strongly run mile.
She was 4th in this race last year. She's produced a career best effort at Royal Ascot since then. And that level of form would probably have been good enough to win last year's race, but I suspect this year it might be a little bit of a stronger renewal.
Well, now let's talk about Maybe. She was the number 1 for Aidan O'Brien's going into the 1,000 Guineas. She ran in the Oaks and didn't seem to get home, and she was pulled out of Royal Ascot. What do you make of Maybe now?
She's got something to prove at this stage, but I think she's going to prove it. 5 from 5 as a 2-year-old. She looked really, really good at that point. And I think there have been valid excuses for this season. I don't think the trip was ideal in the Oaks. I actually felt that she stayed it as the Oaks went, but I think that she'd be a non-stayer over a strongly run 1.5 miles. Fitness became an issue in the ground in the Guineas, and I think Aidan O'Brien said as much afterwards as well. She is going to prove a point that she is a proper Group 1 filly, and she might run really well.
A classic winner in the lineup is Samatage. How do you compare the Coronation Stakes with her Irish Guineas run?
I don't think it's quite up to the Irish Guineas run, but I think it's easy to explain, really. I think she was too close to a strong pace. The rain had come for the Coronation. I think that worked against her. I think the ground is important to her. I think at top level, she wants a decent surface. The Irish Guineas for about the first time we've had good to firm ground this year, and I think she's a speed filly.
And now we move on to the mare Cha Cha Midi. I really like Cha Cha Midi, even though she is quite quirky.
She is a little bit quirky, but she's got a bundle of talent, and she's got an impressive turn of foot as well. She can take a few lengths out of a field when she quickens, and if things pan out for her here, I think that she could run really well. I don't think things went ideally for her really behind Joviality at Royal Ascot. I think that the turn of foot took her to the front, but then in the closing stages, the effort of getting there kind of took her toll. She'd been held up in a race where it was probably an advantage to be a little bit more prominent. I like her, and that turn of foot is really impressive.
I think her form this year has been as good as ever. Both that run at Ascot and the win at Lingfield, she's very impressive that day. I think out of all the horses in the race, she'd be least disadvantaged if it turned out tactical, because I think she's got a potent turn of foot.
I'd just be a little bit concerned. I wouldn't want to see her miss the break again, and therefore the jockey always having to play catch-up with himself and his own plans for the race. And also she was a bit dancy and edgy on the way to start at Royal Ascot. She's just beginning to concern me again, that the talent is beginning to be overshadowed by the quirks once more. The filly who's already very good is the French-trained mare Giofra. Lightly raced, still progressing.
Yeah, I think they're two of the key points about it. There still might be a little bit more to come. Whether there'll be more to come dropping back to a mile, I think is the query next to her name, really. I think her better form is over further. Emulous
is already a Group 1 winner. She absolutely thumped Together last season. What was the reason for her running so poorly in the Windsor Forest?
No idea. I genuinely don't have a clue, but I think given her profile prior to that, you can probably forgive her it. Said it already, that horses disappointing at Ascot can usually be forgiven, more so than at most other tracks, and with that in mind, I would give her a chance. A lot of the form from last year is very strong. Her reappearance run win is also strong form. She travels well, she runs on strongly, she's got a likeable attitude, and she's already a Group 1 winner. There's not a great deal not to like if you forgive that run last time out, and if she didn't come here on the back of that, then I think most people would be talking her up as a real potential player.
Laytime, trained by Andrew Balding, I know is a filly you really like, Steve.
It's lucky there's not a cliff in Newmarket, because I'd be in danger of following her over it. I still believe she's a good filly. I think if you watch the Ascot race again, I think she's the unlucky filly in the Windsor Forest. She wasn't beaten that far, and she had to wait for a run, and I think she would have been battling up the winner with a clear run. So I still think she's got lots of potential. That's a big step forward on Epsom, and I think at a price she could run really well here.
French-trained filly, Golden Lilac, is a really serious contender, Chris. Is a 3 times Group 1 winner already.
Yeah, the dual classic winner in France last year, taking the French Guineas and the French Oaks. She's beaten Sirius d'Aigle in the Prix d'Ispahan in the early part of this season, and that in itself, given his standing amongst the world rankings, is a really good performance. Now, whether you believe that he ran to form or not, I suppose is the key point there, and I think he ran below form, but even so, she's got a career record of 6 wins in 7 starts, 3 Group 1s. She's hard to knock, really.
Golden Lilac is a standout for me as a 3 times Group 1 winner. I think she can add to that.
I'm going to go for Maybe. She's had excuses, I think, for both her defeats so far this season. 5 from 5 as a 2-year-old. She's got plenty of class. That juvenile form is very strong. I think she can bounce back.
I'm going to go for Laytime each way. Ascot suggested she was running into form. I'm convinced she's a pretty good filly.